This is the wild side of the equine world. Today, we're diving into the lives of 9 crazy horse relatives you've probably never heard of. Buckle up for an adventure. Przewalski's horse. Imagine, back in the day, well, before 2018 to be exact, people thought there was only one type of wild horse still running around. Enter the scene. Przewalski's horse, a rare find and a bit of a celebrity in the horse world. These guys almost waved goodbye to us forever. But guess what? They pulled off a magnificent comeback from the brink of extinction. Picture this. In 2022, someone counted them, not an easy job, mind you, and found about 2,500 chilling in zoos and sanctuaries, with another 900 doing their thing in the wild. That's a big deal compared to the old days. Back in the swinging 60s, these horses were nowhere to be seen outside of a zoo. They were officially labeled as extinct in the wild, which is a pretty grim status. But then, some awesome folks got together, rolled up their sleeves, and decided it was time for a horse revival. They reintroduced these majestic creatures back into their Central Asian stomping grounds. Now, if you take a trip to Mongolia or China, you might catch a glimpse of them hanging out in their cool little groups, doing horse stuff. They've got this one stallion leads the pack vibe, with a bunch of mares and their kids following along. It's like a horse version of a royal entourage. Pregnancy for these equine ladies lasts about 11 to 12 months, and when spring comes, a new baby horse drops into the world. These foals are up and running, literally, within an hour after they're born, but they stick with mom for about 8 to 13 months. Initially, everyone thought Przewalski's horse was its own special breed. Then, they were like, nah, they're basically the same as domestic horses. But in 2018, some brainy scientists dropped a bombshell in the journal Science. They said, hold up, these horses are actually the wild kids of the very first horses humans ever tamed. Way back when the wacky culture was doing its thing in Central Asia about 5,500 years ago. So, technically, the dream of wild horses is kind of a myth now. Namib Desert Horse. Now, let's zip over to the Namib Desert. This place is like the ultimate beach without an ocean, stretching all along Namibia's coast. It's so dry, cacti probably think twice before setting roots down here. But guess what thrives in this sandy sauna? Horses. Yes, Africa's only wild horses have decided this is the spa destination of their dreams, despite it being a contender for the world's driest spot. The backstory of these sandy steeds is a bit of a mystery novel, with most fingers pointing at German colonial times. When World War I was kicking off and Germany was playing Monopoly in Africa, Namibia was under their rule. Then, bam, diamonds popped up in Namibia like popcorn, and suddenly huge chunks of the country were off limits, creating a mysterious haven for these horses. Nowadays, there's a gang of just over 100 of these desert dwellers, dodging predators like they're in a real-life version of The Fast and the Furious. The main villains? Spotted hyenas with a taste for foal. But don't worry, the Namibia Wild Horses Foundation is like their superhero squad, working hard to keep them safe. These horses have turned into celebs for tourists keen on exploring Africa's wild side, adding a dash of equine elegance to the zebra-filled landscapes. African Wild Ass. Let's dive into the world of the African Wild Ass, the first VIP in the Assinus Got Talent show, where the wild asses are the stars. These fellows are split into 2 fan clubs, the Nubian Wild Ass, which might as well be a ghost because it's possibly extinct, and the Somali Wild Ass, who's still rocking the stage but is on the critically endangered list. Picture the Somali Wild Ass as the lightweight champion of the ass family, tipping the scales at no more than 550 pounds. These guys have made the hot, dry spots of northern Ethiopia and Eritrea their home turf. When summer hits, it's baby-making season for these animals. They're pretty social, especially the ladies of the group who like to stick together like they're in a tight-knit book club. Some of the girl foals even decide to never leave this cool club, while the boys, well, they get the boot from the lead stallion when they hit their teens, sort of like being told, you gotta move out of your parents' house, buddy. Now, there's a bit of a family drama on whether the domestic donkey is part of their gang or not. For our little chat here, let's just say donkeys and the African wild ass are like distant cousins who only meet at family reunions. Donkeys, though not as brawny as horses, win the personality contest with their chill vibes and patience. Plus, they live longer and are super reliable. making them the unsung heroes of the animal workforce. They're also the jealous type, very much into defending their turf, thanks to their African heritage where the motto is "survive the driest." Asiatic wild ass. Now, taking a trip from Africa to Central Asia, we meet the Asiatic wild ass, also known as the onager or the kulan. These creatures are the wanderers of the arid lands, always on the lookout for a good sip of water. Standing at about zebra height but a bit on the lighter side, they tip the scales at no more than 570 pounds. In the love department, the Persian onager plays it cool. The guys usually roll solo, guarding their territory like bouncers at a club, while groups of females decide whether to stick around or keep moving. It's like a high school dance, but with less awkwardness. Onagers and their relatives form their own exclusive groups, and when they find water, it's like festival season with everyone showing up. Come wintertime, they're ready to switch up their wardrobe, growing a thick coat to keep the chill at bay. This makeover makes them look a bit like their eastern cousins, proving that fashion trends can indeed cross species lines. So there you have it, the wild asses of the world, showing us how to survive and strut our stuff in the harshest of conditions. Yoki horses. Alright, let's gallop over about 3,100 miles west from where we started to a place where the air smells like adventure, and the landscape looks like it's straight out of a fairy tale. We've arrived at the Anatolian Plateau, a cozy spot in Turkey, but don't let its size fool you. This place is bursting at the seams with free-spirited horses known as the Yoki horses of Cappadocia. These horses aren't your average backyard ponies. They've got history, tradition, and a bit of mystery tied to their tails, dating back centuries. The word Yilki has got folks scratching their heads. It either means last year's, or comes from an ancient Turkish word that means wild and free, kind of like the horse's version of a rebel without a cause. These horses used to be the local farmers' best buddies, helping to plow the fields in the warmer months. When winter rolled around, they were like, "See ya, wouldn't want to be ya," and were left to brave the cold on their own. Come spring, it was reunion time, and the cycle started all over again. But then, tractors and other modern gadgets showed up, and the horses were like, "Guess we'll just chill here then." Nowadays, some locals still keep an eye on them, which explains why you might see a few with accessories, reins, not designer handbags. They've become celebrities in their own right, posing with the scenic hot air balloons of Cappadocia for that perfect Instagram shot. Exmoor pony. Now, fast forward and zip about 460 miles to a place where the air is crisp and the scenery is lush. Welcome to Britain's southwest, home to the moors and the mighty Exmoor ponies. Picture these ponies as the OGs of the British pony world, trotting around with a lineage that goes way back, like almost a millennium back. They first got a shout-out in 1085, thanks to William the Conqueror, who was basically doing a medieval version of Google Earth called the Doomsday Book. It was a massive project, probably without the cool cars and cameras, but it put the Exmoor ponies on the map. These ponies were like the celebrities of the old world, grabbing headlines way before social media was a thing. Fast forward to 1921, and the Exmoor Pony Society pops up, kind of like a fan club dedicated to keeping the breed around for future generations to over. World War II nearly wiped them out, but like any good comeback story, they rose from the ashes, and now around 500 of them are living their best life in Exmoor National Park. They're split into 21 different cliques, herds, and despite their wild and free vibe, they actually do have owners, including a couple of herds that are under the National Park's wing. So, while they might look like they're living the untamed life, there's a bit of order to their freedom. Icelandic horse. Let's jump over to Iceland, where the horses are just as breathtaking as those Instagram-worthy landscapes. These Icelandic horses aren't your average backyard ponies. They're more like the cool kids of the equine world, standing proud at 13 to 14 hands high. Don't dare call them ponies, though. They've got the heart and soul of full-sized horses. Their saga begins with the Vikings, cruising over to Iceland in the 9th century with these noble steeds aboard. Imagine that, a bunch of Vikings with their horned helmets. Okay, they didn't really wear those, but let's roll with it. And their trusty horses, ready to start a new life. Now, you might think these horses are just roaming wild, living their best life without a care in the world, but that's not the full story. These beauties have people looking out for them, using them for everything from racing to just chilling out on a ride. The Icelandic horse is a bit like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to moving. They've got more moves than a seasoned dancer, making them super smooth riders. They're like the Teslas of the horse world, with extra gears for a buttery smooth ride. With about 80,000 of them calling Iceland home, and another 100,000 worldwide, they're not exactly on the endangered list. And get this, once an Icelandic horse leaves the island, it's a one-way trip. No returns accepted, and no other horses can come in. It's like Iceland's version of Hotel California for horses. This strict no-visitors policy keeps them healthy and pure, living the good life without any shots needed. Brumby. Now, let's switch gears and head to Australia, where the horse scene is a bit younger but no less interesting. Humans have been hanging out in Australia for over 50,000 years, but horses? They didn't show up until 1788 with the British. There's this tale about a guy named James Brumby, a farrier, no less. Legend has it that some of his horses decided to go walkabout in the Australian bush, and voila, their descendants are known as Brumbies. With around 400,000 of them out there, they're not exactly rare. In fact, in some parts, they're about as welcome as a mosquito at a barbecue, leading to some tough decisions by local authorities. But here's the thing. Brumbies are an iconic part of the Aussie vibe. They're like the rugged outback adventurers of the horse world, coming in all shapes, sizes, and colors thanks to a gene pool that's got a bit of everything. From racehorse royalty like the thoroughbred to the desert princes like the Arabian. They're the living, breathing postcards of Australia's wild side. Mustang. Next stop on our Wild Horse World Tour. The United States, home of the Mustang. These guys are the poster children for the Wild West, with a backstory that's got Spanish explorers written all over it. The name Mustang comes from mestino, which basically means a creature without a boss, roaming free. While horses used to roam the Americas way back when, they took a bit of a hiatus until the Spanish brought them back into the spotlight. Mustangs have mixed it up over the years, borrowing traits from all sorts of breeds to become the ultimate survivalists. After the Spanish dropped by, these horses became everything from farm helpers to buffalo hunters with Native American tribes. At one point, there were about 2 million of them galloping around, but nowadays, about 70,000 Mustangs are living the dream in the wide open spaces of the western U.S., including a special shout-out to the ones chilling in Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. They're like the cowboys of the horse world, rugged, resilient, and utterly American. That's a wrap on our gallop through the world of horse relatives. If you loved meeting these unusual family members, smash that like button and subscribe for more.